Hello, and welcome back to Bible Wits Bible Corner. We're going to be back in the book of Acts today. I'm going to read chapter 4, verses 1 through 6, starting with the English Standard Version. And as they were speaking to the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, greatly annoyed because they were teaching the people and proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection from the dead. And they arrested them and put them in custody until the next day. For it was already evening, but many of those who had heard the word believed, and the number of men came to about 5,000. On the next day, the rulers and elders and scribes gathered together in Jerusalem with Annas, the high priest, and Caiaphas, and John, and Alexander, and all who were of the high priestly family. Alright, New Century Version. While Peter and John were speaking to the people, priests, the captain of the soldiers that guarded the temple, and Sadducees came upon them. They were upset because the two apostles were teaching the people and were preaching that people will rise from the dead through the power of Jesus. The older leaders grabbed Peter and John and put them in jail since it was already night. They kept them in jail until the next day. But many of those who had heard Peter and John preach believed the things they said, and they were now about 5,000 in the group of believers. The next day, the rulers and the elders and the teachers of the law met in Jerusalem. Annas, the high priest, Caiaphas, John, and Alexander were there, as well as everyone from the high priest's family. Okay. So, persecution is something that we see here, but with this persecution, we also see growth. So, in a matter of a few days, from Acts chapter 2 until this point here, we have the number of people that were believing that Christ was risen from the dead and these people were baptized has gone from 3,000 to around 5,000. And the way I understand it, that's only counting the men. That's not counting their wives or anything like that. So the number could have been larger. We don't know. Either way, we see church growth. And that is very, very important. It's also very important that this church growth happens during a time of persecution. We have Sadducees, we have priests, we have guards of the temple, the captains of the guards for the temple, saying that these guys they're not teaching Jewish tradition. I might be sugarcoating that a little bit, and I apologize for that. But of course, they're not teaching Jewish tradition. They're teaching Christ resurrection. They're teaching how we are to follow the example of Christ, which is more important. So, they get arrested, they get put in jail. Do we get persecuted like that today? I honestly would say it depends on the country you live in. Some countries, it is illegal to worship God, period. Other countries, it is, and okay, in the countries that it's illegal to worship God, it's also the same way, but it's worship God at your own risk. Okay, well, what I say to that is there is nothing in, at least my life, more important than God. So yes, I will worship God at my own risk, no matter where I'm at. Because I know, I have faith that God will always be there. So that's what keeps me going. So again, we might not necessarily have the same persecutions they had back then, again, depending on where we live. But every single person that is a Christian today is still being persecuted in one way or another. And it is important to stay strong in the faith and to even add to the number of those who believe while being persecuted. So, I hope you find encouragement in this. I'm doing this a lot more often than I want to, but again, this is a little bit longer than I typically like to do. Have a wonderful God-centered day. Bye.